What's good? What's good, everybody? It's your boy, Jay's Coast Phantom, in this motherfucker. And right now, man, I got a short topic for you today talking about survival mode is basically a form of hell, right? Because to me, survival mode is humanity operating in its lowest form, basically. It's humanity operating in survival mode is God manifesting itself in its lowest form. Like, humans tend to act more animalistic than they tend to act like humans, meaning like a lot of the times survival mode itself is produced based upon the environment that a person is raised in, and a lot of the times if you experience that familiar spirit early, that influence of fear, worry, there's a lot of energy signature, shame, there's a lot of guilt, there's a lot of different energy signatures that people can throw on you, and you may still have residues of these energies, residing inside of you and things like that. And so a lot of the times, a lot of these things are below the detection threshold, but what's going to happen is a lot of these feelings that are subconscious below the detection threshold are going to influence behaviors, tendencies, habits, without necessarily the observer of that mind and body knowing and understanding what's actually going on within their reality, until they go through like a bunch of experiences where the universe, where really it's them and the universe collaborating to force them to look in the mirror and take accountability and responsibility for the programming that may be going on with their mind. And it's like, the earlier a person take responsibility for that programming and correct that trajectory and correct that error, right? They can start to go down that direction that they actually want to manifest. Here's the thing: nothing is impossible for your spirit. Nothing is impossible for your mind. We all have access to the neocortex. We all have access to higher thinking. We all have access to higher thought, angelic thought. We can all get out of these lower feelings, these goddamn animalistic desires, these cravings and shit like that, and actually just use our higher thought, our higher ability to process those things, not necessarily get lost in those things. A lot of the times it's easy to just get lost in these early influences and just, call that our life. But, through our experiences, slowly and surely we're going to see like, damn, we're tired of these experiences. We're tired of manifesting these same people, places, and things and stuff, and these same experiences and stuff like that, right? So eventually a person is going to be forced to get out of that and shit like that in some way, shape, or form, right? And if they don't get out of it, then the universe will just do it for them, and they won't like how the universe does it and shit, because it's not really the universe, it's really their own spirit. Like, for example, a lot of people right now are just quitting their corporate jobs because their spirit is tired of being in that space of, slaving away for, some shit that probably ain't even really worth your peace of mind, type shit like that, right? But see, that's their spirit creating that circumstance, situation, and shit and stuff like that to get out of it. And it's like a lot of different things. You might go to work, you might start to hate your coworkers or whatever. It's a lot of different ways that, your spirit's gonna play that out. Because here's the thing though, you would have probably never met these friends, let's say for example at school, at your workplace, if it wasn't for these government circumstances, situations. So it's like your spirit don't even want to be in these type of situations anyways. That's why a lot of people some people just skip school and shit like that. And I'm not talking down on schools. A lot of benefits when it comes to education and things like that. But a lot of the times these all are government organized situations and stuff like that. And here's the thing though, a lot of these people that run the education system, like these ministers and shit like that, they don't even give you the tools and the systems to know yourself. They don't even give you the tools and the systems to know yourself. So we don't even know our attributes, our characteristics, what we are, the energy signatures that we naturally resonate with and have an affinity with, our life path numbers, are like the manifestation codes in our name, because your name is a sigil, you're manifesting from that, like literally it's an energy and stuff like that, right? So it's like this world, it don't do these things. Like, it just kind of like allow you to just fall and stumble and figure out on your own. And here's the thing, there's nothing wrong with that, because no one really owe anyone anything. But it's like, I'd be looking at it like, damn, motherfuckers know better, so why do they do better? But again, that's not up to me to decide, right? I mean, I'm only like a spokesperson of my purpose, and advocating, progress or just repeating the same experience and shit like that, right? But yeah, I'm gonna read some stuff right here, because I wrote some shit down, right? To me, survival mode is humanity basically accepting scarcity, and it's basically God manifesting itself in its lowest form, like basically the animal, right? And mankind is on the journey of learning how to be a man and learning how to be a woman, and that's like another topic for another time, because that's like a spiritual topic. Because yeah. So it's like basically, yeah, people stay in the comfort zone with their comforts, but the result of that is a lack of growth, a lack of abilities and skills that actually lower your value as a person in the society, right? And it lowers your self-esteem and confidence. And a lot of the times, like, they make like value something external, like, oh, you should value the school system, you should value like I don't know, your principal, you should value like, you know, being a part of the military. They always kind of, or it's just the mentality in this realm, kind of advocate for you valuing and joining with something externally outside of you, rather than just a person valuing and validating themselves and joining with themselves and starting their own shit. But see, here's the thing though. A part of this world is I gotta put you in survival mode so you can be in a form of hell, so you do actually need me in some type of way. So because as long as like humans is operating based on scarcity and their animalistic lower nature and their lower desire, they'll forever be in need of some form of external savior. That's why I talk so heavily against religion, because like it's one of those tricks to trick you into not growing yourself and giving your faith and belief and imagination some type of like external deity and shit like that, and believing you're gonna be saved. See, that's the difference between religion and spirituality. Spirituality, you actually have to take accountability. You're actually responsible for your life. You're actually responsible for what's on your mind. Religion is just spookism, like, you know, like, oh, I'm gonna go to hell. But they never explain that to you, so they just put you in an energy of fear. See, survival mode. You see how it works? Like the pastor, like, see, I'm not part of a church, but, you know, I know a few people that, you know, was in church and stuff like that. You know, I just met a lady at the park that, you know, she was in the church community for a long time. She was telling me some stories and shit like that. And a lot of the times the pastor will kind of use hell as a threat. Like, oh, you better donate to the church. You better do this. Or, you know, Islam, for example, or your mom and dad, for example, might tell you like, oh, you know, you better obey your parents or you're going to go to hell and shit like that. But here's the thing, though. You don't need to use fear while you can actually just use love to inspire. So you see how everything is backwards in this world? Where it's like, I'm going to put you in survival mode via lower vibrational energies at a very, very, very early age. And I'm going to familiarize you with that shit. And that's going to be the familiar spirit that you'll resonate with. And that's actually going to be the spirit that runs people. So eventually, people actually accept the survival world for what it is. And they just start to play the game, basically. Like, try to deceive, try to overpower other people. Try to hurt other people and shit, like, to prove something to themselves, about themselves. Like, anytime you see any of those OG gangsters and shit like that, the only reason they beating on motherfuckers because these motherfuckers got beat on themselves. Like, a lot of motherfuckers that was doing the knockout game way back, they probably got knocked the fuck out. They probably got beat up themselves at an early age, so they went to do that to someone else. Like, people that, like, it's crazy, bro. So, it's like most of the world would rather just repeat the cycle rather than actually look at themselves, be accountable and responsible, do the work to get out of these energies, because we truly don't need to be in that space, and it's just truly in people's heads at this point, like, type shit. So it's like, yeah. So survival mode is when you're raised in an environment that promotes fear instead of love, control instead of nurture, and deception instead of passion. This form of environment can lock you into survival mode, where we are reacting and not responding constructively with discipline and structure or higher thinking. Instead, we emotionally respond based on the weight of our experiences, right? Because a lot of people's experiences they still haven't processed those things. A lot of people's traumas, a lot of people's emotional pains and stuff like that, they haven't really processed. So a lot of this baggage is just still sitting in their mind and their body, and they're still operating from these things, right? So it's like a person got to process these things first and cleanse their internal vessel. Because if a person doesn't cleanse their mind, their internal vessel, they just become like a host for demons and blah, blah, blah. And then because here's the thing, people like to play with certain stuff, but it's like, if people can't control their demons, they're ran by their demons. That's why even like Jesus Christ, he was just teaching people how to fight their inner demons and shit like that. how to win the battle within and stuff like that, how to transmute the darkness into light, into awareness, into knowledge that can be shared with others, like for real, which is very, very powerful. So this form of environment can lock you into survival mode, where we are reacting and responding constructively with discipline and structure, where we're not responding constructively with discipline and structure or higher thinking. Instead, we are emotionally responding based upon the weight of our experiences. A lot of those early experiences of survivalistic energies and influences may have configured us to operate at the animalistic base instinct of fight or flight or freeze or fawn. A lot of behavioral mechanics, habits, and tendencies that we exhibit is just how we learn to cope as a survival response. The person that's answering their the person that's answering these life challenges maybe just be the wounded inner child, right? Because a lot of times, like, people kind of create like a personality disorder almost, where it's like they almost develop another persona, another person to deal with reality, but that person be disconnected from like their authentic, genuine self. So it'd be like a logical mask or some shit like that. It don't be like who they truly are and stuff like that. Because a person may have not even dealt or processed how they feel yet and stuff like that. And when a person is coming from survival mode, I give all types of grace, all types of love, just because like I understand, like, first of all, that's what I went through. Then, second of all, it's like you can't like use fear and anger to replace that. Like, you gotta use love almost. And then there was something else I was gonna say. I forgot what it was though. But anyways, I'm gonna keep moving. Maybe I remember it. Yeah. So the person that's answering these life challenges may just be the wounded inner child, right? There may even be a lot of suppressed emotions that haven't been processed yet, like I said earlier, right? So it's not easy, because it's like, how many years has a person lived in survival mode? 20 years, 30 years, 40 years before they even realize what's actually going on? And then they have to undo all that. You know how long all that's going to take? It's going to be every day. It's going to be a battle. And every day, your own mind, your own survival brain, your old reptilian brain, like someone in the hood, is going to try to put you to fucking sleep, because it honestly believes that you're doing something unsafe, uncomfortable, something that's going to get you hurt based upon the experiences that it's recorded. So it's going to reject anything new that exists outside of that pattern. And survival mode is basically just a pattern that we stay in and don't expand out of and stuff like that. But that pattern just be an animalistic behavior based upon fear and low vibrational shit. And it's like, eventually we got to come out of the cave, because it's like, just got to come out the cave and fight the bigger battle. That's all there is, man. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say for today. This was survival mode is a form of hell. Because again, like, never in my life have I done even anything remotely valuable or worth it in survival mode. The only beautiful experiences that I've ever had in my life came when I was out of survival mode, when I was actually in the genuine, authentic connection with myself, which is kind of, from my personal experiences, if you guys want to know, it's kind of easy to slide back into survival mode from being like abundant and shit like that. Just because when you get lazy and you don't do the work and shit like that, it's easy to slide back in, because it's really like your mind and body, because the spirit is against the flesh. The spirit want to expand, have all types of experiences, but it be stuck in the flesh. So your spirit be fighting your flesh. The spirit be trying to get out of the flesh and shit like that, right? But depending on the observer and depending on the mind, it again, like, it's easy to stay in the survival mode than it is to get out of it and shit like that, right? But the goal is to get out of it, because life is so wonderful, and we deserve to live and experience life at the highest level of abundance, period. Because like I said, those were the best experiences and the best times that I ever had in my life, when I was living life from a point of view of abundance and doing those things. So with that being said, everybody, peace out. Love, peace, and power to everybody. And everybody can have this abundance if we all put in the damn work. You better believe it. Real stuff.